25 grand for 4 days. I was getting booked every week. So I was playing for Darlington. My modelling career really took off.
You know, a lot of people will see the guy who's got hundreds of thousands of followers on social medias.
And I remember the brand owner just pausing and like, I knew something was wrong. You look too big in the face. You're not the same model. We're going to have to call a shoot off.
Are you better off being not great looking with a big following, or a really striking looking human with no following?
And we were losing money, not even breaking even. Disheartened, you know, it dented my ego. I tried, we went for it. I take pride in saying that it failed.
Will this brand make you a millionaire?
4 years out, I have 3 fights. One of them will be guaranteed to be on Misfits. And I remember just burst out crying. And I said, is she gone? And I said, you need to come up.
What do you mean you could have went to jail? So today we are joined by Leon Scott, brand owner, business owner, fitness coach, entrepreneur, friend. You're a father, built your own house. You've got a million things going on. And I know you've been on the podcast before, Leon, but I want to have you back because I know we're obviously friends outside of this. And I see you as someone who I've been inspired by for a long time. The things that you've managed to do, achieve. Again, you're a lad from the Northeast. And I think ultimately, I just want to show that it's possible to do things. There's a lot of people who will sit and tune into podcasts and they'll try and get inspiration or motivation and they don't know where to start. You're a lad from a council estate and look what you've gone on to achieve. So for the people who don't know, I want to unpick that. There may be many people who didn't see our first episode, mate, and we've got a lot of new subscribers now and people who will be fresh on this. What is your journey like? If you take it back to those council estates, and obviously now you've got different brands and stuff, and we'll get onto that. But how do you get to a position where you've got, you know, the brands you've got, building your own homes? Like how does that even work?
Obviously going right back to the council estate days. I was brought up by my nan and my mum. Never really had the father figure around. He left at a very young age. So I was always left to do my own thing to a certain degree in terms of find my own way. I had an older brother who did help me with things, but it was almost like go out and hunt to a certain degree in terms of you've got to make the best of what you've been given. And I've sort of followed that through for the rest of my life. You can use, you know, your bad, let's say, so-called bad experiences and not work with them or work against them, you know what I mean? I've sort of like went out and done that myself in terms of I've always wanted to better myself. How can I give more? How can I do more? And like I said, to this day, I still carry that same mentality.
When you've obviously went through your younger years, Leon, I know that you played football, didn't you, at a good level as well?
I did, yeah. Again, I didn't play football until an older age, I would say. It was 12-year-old. Football actually came about for me from a school detention, believe it or not. I was on a school detention and it was primary school, last year primary school. And there were players short and I was in detention, and one of the lads from school at the time who I knew played for the school asked the teacher if I could play, but with them being short, she allowed me to play after the detention. Didn't have any boots, borrowed them boots, and that game I scored 5 goals. And back then when I was younger, I used to get a buzz off attention for the wrong things at school, but I almost got a love and appreciated and attention playing that game for scoring 5 goals. And it was a different buzz. I wasn't getting that love for the wrong things, it was the right things. So that's when I sort of like fell in love with football, and I do believe football saved me from going the wrong way in terms of, you know, doing bad things, potentially going to jail. I sort of fell in love with football, but I knew doing what I was doing at school in terms of misbehaving, not attending, being cheeky, I wasn't allowed to play football. So yeah, obviously slowly, didn't happen overnight, but slowly knocked that on the head in terms of misbehaving, started to listen at school. And then my first year of senior school, that's when I started taking it serious. And I got scouted for Middlesbrough. And I was that kid where I used to always go out. I never changed, been that kid, but running around the streets with everyone else. But I was the one with the football and not with the bottle of White Lightning.
Fair enough. You know what's crazy about that though? Like, when you mentioned there, so what did you say? You said, I could have potentially went to jail. Mm-hmm. Now, for someone listening or watching this, Leon, like, who may not be from a council estate or not from, you know, these type of humble beginnings, what do you mean you could have went to jail? Because that will sound so foreign to someone who doesn't understand that. Do you know what I mean?
I guess it's the area that I was brought up in, and I'm forever grateful for that area that I was brought up in, which was South Bank. It's a rough estate. Not many people, let's say, make it out there. And when I say make it out there in terms of being successful. You're either in there, and it's not a bad life. People might look at that and think, yeah, it's a terrible life. But again, it is what it is. It's what you make it. So it was more the area and what everyone else was doing in that area. They were either selling drugs, they were either going to jail, they were doing nicking cars. So there was not many people or role models that came out of that area where I could say, well, he's done it or she's done it. You know what I mean? So it was more or less the pattern to follow, which is why I was saying I was sort of on that pattern when I was younger, because I was living with my nana. My nana let me get away with a lot of things, as well as my mum. Never had that father figure to say, stop doing that, don't do that. But I was always around it, and I wanted to get out of it, but the people that I was with didn't really set a good example for me to get out of it. It was always, I had to make my own way.
Yo, what's happening, people? If you are liking the episode so far, make sure you click the like button, hit the subscribe button, and also press the notification bell so you don't miss another episode. What was the reason you were brought up by your nan? Or you lived there a lot?
I lived there, I chose to live there. I got a lot of attention and love, and I believe as my dad left, told by my nana, she made one promise with him that she would always look after me until I was old enough to look after myself. I still had a relationship with my mum, but my mum obviously had a new fella and other kids, but I just got a deep connection with my nana from a young age. So I moved in, I think I was about 7 years old, since I moved in with my nana, and lived with her ever since until she passed.
Because I want to ask the question, right? And I mean, I don't know how open you are with these things, but because obviously you've got that tan, there's definitely some kind of heritage thing going on. And my assumption, whether it's a good one or not, I don't know, but I would say that you don't look fully English.
Yeah.
Where's your dad actually from?
Libya.
Right.
So I do get that a lot. People like say...
Because I've been on shoots with you when people are like, Leon, are you just tan? Like,
yeah. You're really that colour. Like, do you use tanners? And I'll say it honestly, I've never used a tanner. Sunbed, yes. Tanners, no. But I've sort of like got my mum's white features, but my mum's not even full and white. She's obviously got a bit of colour in her as well. But, my younger brother, he's got curly hair, afro hair, and he's dark-skinned. But different dads, so my colour comes from my dad, who's from Libya, so I have got natural colour in me, and then I tan a lot easy.
So that's North Africa, innit? Have you been?
I've never been, no. About 7 or 8 years ago, there's a guy local at pizza shop who came into the country with my dad, and who's still in the country, and he was like, oh, do you want to find him and all that, and we sort of asked the questions, but yeah, we never really took it any further.
Did you not want to get a job at a pizza shop?
I see if there's anything going.
I'm sure you've served me before.
Probably, man, probably.
But what was the do you have any relationship at all? I know you, like, back then when you said your father before he left, did you have a relationship before he left, or was that a pretty much?
No, I can't remember. Like I said, I was only young. I think by the time he left, I was 4-year-old, so I wasn't old enough to understand, really. I will have had a relationship, obviously, as a child playing, but not that I can remember where I was like, oh, them were the best days, or like that. So as far as I'm aware, I didn't have a father because I couldn't remember anything about him.
The reason I ask you that, and some people, when you bring their parents into it or their upbringing, see, for me, I think it's important to understand, because you get to understand the man that sort of sits before us. And I think some people will deny it, they'll admit it. Is that something that bothered you, do you think? Because I'm looking at, again, instantly, football, camaraderie, people around you, appreciation, adoration for doing them things. Is that lack of the father? Is that why you seek that? Or is that just because it helps me understand people, and then helps me understand myself? Do you think that was something that you lacked?
It's probably something that I missed, that I didn't have. You know what I mean? Like, which why to this day, obviously I'm sure we'll get onto it later, I'm a father now myself, I want to be the best father I can be in all aspects of life for him, because I didn't have that person that tamed me when I needed taming, gave me that cuddle when I needed that cuddle, told me to not do that when it was wrong doing that. Someone there as a father figure, I didn't really have that, so I probably bounced around older heads for that, but them older heads in the area were all doing wrong things. So, you know what I mean? I was getting advice, that showed me a lot of love, but now when I look back, it was for the wrong reasons, for the wrong things, because, you had the fight, now got respected, you stole that, now you're mad, you know what I mean? So it was like, yeah, I'm getting respect, but back then it was for the wrong reasons and the wrong things, but I never had a father to say, what you doing? You know what I mean? If my mum or my nana tried to tell me, it was, don't tell me, I know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? So it was, yeah, and which again, like I said, it inspires me to be that father figure now.
I think a lot of people don't see that side of someone. I think that's why it's really important to do these podcasts and have these conversations, because, a lot of people will see the guy who's got hundreds of thousands of followers on social medias. I'm pretty sure some of your TikToks of it 10, or even your Instagram reels, some of them have done 10 million views and all kind. Like this is a guy who again is well known across the social platforms and stuff, but a lot of people think that you've got that put together, like it's always been that way. He's a good looking lad, so he's gonna but I know the graft that goes into it, obviously. But how do you actually, what was your first feeling like of, right, okay, I need to kind of carve some kind of following, or that's going to be the route I go down? Again, social media hasn't been around when we were kids.
Yeah.
But when that came onto the scene, was that something that you wanted to do? Or were you like, I need to just be this footballer?
I wouldn't say it was something that I was like, this is what I want to do in terms of social media, because it's still not to this day. It's just more about, it's more, back then and even probably to this day, it's more for me as a journey through life. Like it's like a scrapbook, like a memory book, which is obviously off camera earlier. We had the conversation, if it was to ever go or you were ever to lose it, is a scary thought, because that's it. I've never deleted anything. If you go onto my social media, right back from my first post, and the quality of the posts have always changed. It isn't like, really high end. I try to be as real as I can. So yeah, social media is not something that I want to do, but it's more almost like it's led to that, you know what I mean? And like I say, it's just keeping up with the present time as well.
Do you think when you build a following, Leon, do you think it I know you're saying, you would hate to lose it, but do you think you could do what you do in life now without it?
It'd have an impact, because a lot of my business and my reach and my voice is on social media, you know what I mean? So I'd be able to, let's say, I'd be able to live a lot more peaceful, because it requires a lot of work and requires a lot of attention on it. But that being said, a lot of income comes from that. So I'll be able to live, but I'd have to source other things to be able to live the life I'm living.
So modelling. And again, I know we did talk about this on our first podcast, but again, for the fresh ears, fresh eyes on this, you've got brands, you've got all things going on. How do you, is modelling something that, again, you kind of fell into? Would you advise modelling as well now? What's the industry like, and how was it when you entered it?
The industry is very different. Before I joined, during I joined, and still to this day, it's forever evolving and changing in terms of a model. Because now you have, like, say, social media models, content creator models, who are not in the eyes of an agency or an eye of a real model, in terms of these runway models, who, in my eyes, actually are models. I'm not a model. I'm just like, I've got a look that suits a social media, that suits that brand. So I would advise, no one's got the perfect look to be a model. You know what I mean? Anyone can go for it. But for me, yes, the look attracts, but then it's what you do after you've got the attraction from, let's say, the brand owner or someone who you're aspiring to model for.
Yeah, I'm with you. See, I think it's when you get into that sort of, I don't want to say debate, argument, whatever it may be, but because it is fast-paced and ever-changing, it's almost hard to understand whether it's viable to pick. Because I know plenty of lads out there who are like, ads, can you get us on this shoot and stuff? And it's like, well, it doesn't really work like, oh, you're a good-looking lad, or you're a good-looking lass, let's just whack you on in, you'll get paid a shitload of money. Because people look for, following. They look for how hot you are. They look for, are you going to bring anything to the brand? It's not just about that. Are you better off? I know this might sound like a dumb question, but for the viewers, to address it, are you better off being not great-looking with a big following, or a really striking-looking human with no following?
Being totally honest, probably the following. If you're willing to, let's say, collaborate and shout about you doing work with that brand. Some people with big following will do work, but behind closed doors. So they don't really, unless them images come out. Pretty sad, really, that it's gone that way, because it's a little bit like influencers becoming DJs and DJs getting no work and the influencers getting the work because of the following. So it's what you bring to the table besides just your looks. And again, if you can bring both, happy days.
Because the reason I ask you that specifically, and I think there's no better person to ask that, because I've been on shoots with you, and when I see how you are, and I've been on shoots with a lot of models, and there's people who turn up, they'll put the clothing on, they'll do their certain poses, and then nash. With you, you seem more like almost like a creative director's role. Like, you have a big input on how you want things to look, and if you put your face to something, you're actually asked about what. Do you know what I mean? There's a difference. You're not just. I can tell it's not a transaction for money. There's something different about you, and this is why you've went on to create your own brands. What I want to talk about is, obviously, you've got into modeling. You've kind of built a following, and you've carried on doing that thing. Did the modelling affect your football?
Yeah.
Did it kind of take from that?
Yeah.
Is that why you left the football?
I've never really left the football. I've always been around it, but it got to a point where, I was getting offered big jobs. My modelling was peak when I was probably peak football. So I was playing for Darlington when my modelling career really took off. When I was getting offered, work up in LA, in Dubai, all around the world, but the pay had also went really good. So that's when it was almost like, do I decide, or can I get away with still playing and modelling? And obviously I couldn't do the football at the level I was doing anymore, because I was there one week, not there one week. So obviously that's when the model, it was more than full time, because I was, like I say, around the world modelling. So football I was still playing, but when I could, not at the level that I was before I started taking off.
You mentioned about, it paid well and stuff. Can you talk about that? How well is well? Like, I know obviously every model there's got to be a range of what you can make. What's been your most lucrative job?
Highest paid job was probably, well, obviously when I I was under contract for a brand, Herald London, which that was 4 year under contract. But before that, obviously, there was big jobs where I'd land where you could get up. One of them was like 25 grand for 4 days. So that, to me, is like ridiculous money for a model. But then when you get speaking to other models who are leagues above you, they can get that for 1 day. You know what I mean? And then there's others where they're getting £500 for a day. So it all depends on the brand and who you're working with in terms of what the reach and what the brand is.
Because that can work for the same brand, can't it, as well? Like, you can get a bunch of models for a particular brand, and someone's getting paid pennies and someone's getting paid thousands. Isn't that crazy?
And again, it's based on everything in terms of who the model is. When I say who the model is what's he done previously, what's his following like, who's representing him, what's he offering us after the shoot. So all these are touch points that will vary on your pay. You know what I mean? Like you're saying there, what value is he bringing? Does he just come take the shots and go up? Is he going to have some input? Is he going to create for us on his page? Is he going to shout about our brand on his page? So these are obviously what you've got to consider on your pricing when you're, pricing something up for a work.
I want to ask about the times when there could be pressure involved. A model now, I guess I know you're being humble when you're saying there's people who you thought was a lot of money and there's people leagues above you, but you've still did it at a very high level, Leon. Do you feel pressure as a model, like to look a certain, like, do you feel like I've got to be on my diet, on my shit all the time, or is it a case of, well, you know, I'm getting booked anyway, I can maybe
No,
have a few...
it's never as the fact I'm getting booked. There's actually been one shoot where I have attended and I've been booked on that shoot when it was peak. But I was actually trying to put more size on, probably for my own ego more than because I was getting booked every week. I was looking good, but I was like, I want to beef up here. I want to get bigger. So I knew what I was doing, but I didn't know the effect. I sort of knew the effect, but I thought I'd get away with it. So obviously I'd put more size on, ate more, train more. When I say more size, I don't mean gone like, you know, obese, just more muscle mass, got a lot bigger in my face and my arms and my shoulders. And I'd turned up at a shoot and they took some snaps. And I remember the brand owner just pausing and like, I knew something was wrong. And I obviously come off the floor and says, everything all right? And I said, we're just going to take a break for 10 minutes. And then they came back and they'd showed me from a previous shot that I'd worked with him. I'd looked slim, cheeks slim, body slim. And the shot on the day and said, you look too big in the face. You're not the same model that we previously shot with. We're going to have to call the shoot off. So that to me was like, bang. Like, I thought I looked good, which to the average guy in the gym, I did because I was putting more size on. My t-shirts were a lot tighter. But for what the modeling industry wanted and what that brand in particular wanted wasn't the look. So I remember I was in London at the time and I rang my partner and I was like, the shoot's being called off. She was like, what do you mean the shoot's being called off? I said, I look too big in the face. I don't suit the brand no more. Bear in mind, the brand owner still said, you will still get paid. Don't worry. Don't take this personal, but we're going to call the shoot off. And there was another model at the time who was sort of like peaking as well. And he said, we're going to have to replace you with X, Y, and Z. I was like, all right, okay. But the shoot's still got to go ahead, like within the next week. So when you see this person instead of you, don't take it to heart. But I sort of did. I was like, you know what I mean? That was, I wouldn't say a low in my modelling career, but that made me like, right, now I've got to trim. Now I've got to go back to work and forget. I don't want to, if this is my, you know, my career, if this is where I'm earning, this is where I want to excel, I can't be that stocky guy. I can't be that, you know, beefy, muscly guy. I need to have that model look where lean, which is my old brand, is like being lean. But that was at one time when I had to really pull it back.
Well, I suppose you've kind of got to dance to their music, haven't you? If
Yeah.
you want to grow in that area.
To a certain degree, yes.
Does it work like, is there much rivalry in modelling?
Oh, yeah.
So, for instance, if there's someone going up for a job and you want it, in fact, let me rephrase the question, Leon. How much would you say networking plays a part in getting that role over the look? So, can you muscle your way in to getting that gig if you know the brand owner more than actually my portfolio?
I wouldn't say muscle your way, no, but I would say you have a chance of landing in front of them, if that makes sense, in terms of, you know, it's like any job. If you know the owner or the brand owner of a business, whether that be clothing, whether that be anything, you know what I mean? If you just imagine there's a pile of faces that have landed on the desk. If you know the owner, there's a good chance you can get your face at the top. But that's not to say you're going to get the job, because the next face might be better. You know what I mean? So you've got a good chance of getting in front of the right person, but there's no guarantee of getting the job if someone else, you know, for me now as a brand owner, each campaign, there's a look. And that's what some models don't grasp, or some models are not okay with. And I wasn't. Say if I got booked for one shoot by one brand and I didn't the next shoot, I'd think, what have I done wrong? And it'd kill your confidence a little bit. But now, owning a brand, I understand that each campaign has got different creative, meaning you need a different look, you need a different face. Nothing to do with what that last model done, but now we're going in a new direction in terms of what the outcome is, what we want to achieve from this look. The previous model can't offer us that, so now we need to find a new one. And again, back then I didn't understand that, but now I do. So my advice would be, if you've been booked for one job and you don't get booked, and you see a new model working with that brand a couple of weeks later, just bear in mind you've done nothing wrong. They just had to change their creative.
Got one final question on modelling. Bit of a challenge for you.
Yeah.
If you could describe, and I understand every model's going to look different, but if you could describe one look that you think you're going to have the best chance, so jawline, facial hair or not, what type of hair, how would you describe the person?
Blue eyes. I would say a light skin colour, a little bit of a tan in there, but natural, and then like I would say like a blondie curly haired look. So it's almost like a mixed race guy, but not full mixed race, but with blue eyes. I think a lot of agencies and a lot of brand, it's almost like a different, diverse look.
That is literally, well, for one, it's like the opposite of you, which is mad. But secondly, is that even, well, I suppose it is, mixed race, blonde hair?
Yeah.
I suppose it's more like a Bayesian type of mix, isn't it?
Like a Latin, when I say blonde hair, not like bright blonde, like a fair like
yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, it's almost like I say, it's different. So it's like striking straight away. So you're bringing attention in because it's a different look. So it's like, whoa, that looks different. So
is it a bit like that? You know that, I can't remember his name now, mate, but there was a model and he was a convict. Do you remember? I'll try and put his face on the screen.
That video went viral. The image went viral of his convict shot, and then when he came out of jail, he modeled for Philippine. I forgot his name. I know exactly.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? He's got like blue eyes. And
so
he's
that
like mixed
was
race
that
looking,
look. He had that like rough mixed race look, blue eyes, little tat on his face.
Yeah.
And yeah, I remember that image went viral. But he came out and he was a really successful model.
Crazy, isn't it? So then, obviously, you've had your own brand. Can I mention the name of it?
Yeah, of course you can, yeah.
Fawn Couture.
Yeah, Fawn, just Fawn.
Not Couture. So ultimately, that brand's no longer here, is it?
No.
What was the story with that? Why did you start your own brand, and why did it not get to the heights that you wanted it to?
So obviously, been in the industry and see it always getting changed into clothes and seeing the quality, seeing the designs, loving fashion myself. It was something I always wanted to do, but knowing my strengths and obviously not knowing what I'm good at and what I am good at, I needed someone else but I always feel obviously joint ventures work better when you're with someone and you bounce ideas off. You do what you're good at, he does what he's good at. So I wasn't waiting for the opportunity to come around because it was always something I was going to look for and do myself. But there was a local lad with me who already had the brand, was Jason, and he reached out to me and that was like, perfect. You know what you do good at, what I can't do, and I do good at what you can't do. Let's come together, let's do it. So it was almost like an opportunity given, but at the same time, it was something in my eyes that was always going to arise and come to the surface. So me and him went together, done the brand. The brand, at first was successful in terms of the launch. I think we launched with 8 T-shirts, sold out 4 of them, then slowly ticked over with the rest. And it was a bit of a schoolboy error from what we done, which is why the brand's no longer around. We almost ran before we could walk. Like I say, the launch done well. Then when we were launching the next campaign, we over-ordered basically. A little bit of an ego thing. Let's get this looks good, let's do that. And spent everything that we earned back on product and doubled our product from the first launch. So we were left with nothing in the bank to play with in terms of how we're going to attract new customers.
So nothing for marketing on now?
No, nothing for marketing, there was no cash flow. And we almost realised that on the launch night, because we still done well on the launch night not so much the launch night, the second drop. But we seen the things that didn't sell and what weren't selling. And they were the ones that costed the most in terms of buying from a supplier, being hoodies and joggers. What we really should have done, if I'm going back, is like I say, slowly built the products. We launched as a T-shirt brand, and that's what done well. Then we tried to introduce joggers, hoodies, and other things where it was probably too soon for that. And then we were sat on a lot of stock. And then from that, we had to obviously put the brand massively in the sale to try and pull money back. And obviously the customer didn't know this at the time, but we sort of already called it behind closed doors in terms of, at the time I was, Cruz, my son, was just about ready to be born. He had a lot going on, and I had my other brand, Circulr. So I was like, this is requiring a lot of effort and money. There's nothing coming back. I think we need to call it. You know what I mean? It was taking a lot of our time up, and we were losing money, not even breaking even. So it did take, I like to say, a lot of balls to say we're failing. We need to pull the plug. Or we could have carried on knocking our heads together, inevitably losing more and more money, investing more. Because a lot of brands don't show this behind closed doors. You know, that some might be failing, but they don't want to show that they are. They don't want to let go of that, and they'll just spending. Some are, you know, I've got the cash flow to be able to keep putting in, because it's not their money, it's coming from elsewhere, or getting grants, or getting loans, or just getting money in, but inevitably never getting money back out.
So it looks on the surface that
It looks on the surface that they're smashing it, which a lot of brands are. Some are just breaking even, some are doing all right, but for me, there was more going on with Circulr at the time, where I was like, this has got more legs, this needs my attention, this needs more of me on it. Whereas if I was trying to juggle between the two, with one that was losing money, it just didn't make sense for me.
Do you think it could have been pulled back or not?
In terms of?
Like, do you think you could have revived the brand?
Yes, but like I say, if at the time that was my only thing going on, it would have been like, right, we need to strip this back and see what we can, you know, pull back here, because what we had done is put the brand massively in the sale. So it almost damaged the brand by doing that. And we didn't do that quietly. It was like, again, back then, you'll see some brands do sales now, but they have a special way of doing it, like the Vault and with Representative, different ways of how can they sell the brand without marking it massively on the website. So it's like, we probably could, but I had too much going on with other stuff to take my attention away from that.
How did you have the balls to admit failure publicly? Because I know you're not saying the words "we failed," but that's effectively what happened.
Yeah, 100%. No, that's what it is. We did.
How did that feel from a guy who's big on his image, works with other brands, started his own, but then it didn't work? How does that actually feel? Because as well, you've got your son's on his way and stuff. You're thinking, I'm gonna have to close the doors on something that could have been a big thing. Like you just never know. How I understand you had other fingers in other things, but ultimately, how do you take that?
Disheartened, it dented my ego. But as I reflect on it, it's like I take pride in saying that it failed. I tried. We went for it. Put a lot of money in it, put a lot of time, put a lot of effort into it, and it didn't work out. And that's all right. We move on. We go again. Who's to say the brand might come back to life? Who's to say we might not create another brand? But what the lessons we've took from it are very valuable. So that's what I'll take from that failure. The word failure is fail. We did fail, but in my eyes, I didn't fail. We took a lot from it in terms of lessons of what I can share, what I can now apply to the new brand, and what I can do going forward.
I wonder where you get that kind of wisdom from, because so many people, they build something, they put a lot of time, money, effort into something, and they can't accept that. It can break someone, that.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Where do you think you get that from?
Probably self-education in terms of, it only, I wouldn't say it recently happened, but it's just reading, listening, observing, seeing, but then doing. That's the main thing for me, doing. It's all right watching motivational things, listening to other people do it, but the main thing is you've got to apply what you've done. So whenever I come up against an adversity or an experience where I'm like, well, this is different, this is out of my comfort zone, I'm looking, what can I take from it? Not like what effect is it having on me. It's what can I take from this that is going to make me stronger. That's going to give me more wisdom to share, to pass on to, I have more knowledge in what I've learned from the experience.
Unbelievable, that. I want to ask you something. You know, when that brand was kind of going down the pan, what was it like in the house? What was it like to live? What were you like to live with? Like, was your other half giving you support? Was she like, Leon, you know, I kind of believe, like, how is that? Is it like, come on, bash on, we can do something else? You can.
Yeah.
I understand you're always going to get support from your partner. She's going to believe in you, but how does that feel as well? Like, in front of your own.
Yeah, obviously, again, it's like I say, you're gutted. It's like, it did take a lot of conversations between me and Jane. He obviously spoke to his partner, my partner. Is it the right thing? Is it not? And it was, you know what I mean? It was. I was still packing orders from home, knowing that the brand wasn't doing as well. But we had to pretend like weeks before, potentially months before, on the surface that it is. You know what I mean? And it's defeat. Like I say, and that's where it was. We were defeated. But that being said, if that was at that time the only thing that I had going, then I believe I would have dug my heels in a little bit longer to see if we could have done more. I'm not saying that we didn't do more, but we almost bowed out well before we could have applied applied more money. That's what it boiled down to. Were we both willing to put in another 10k? Inevitably is another big risk after it's lost X, Y, and Z. And it was like, not right now. I'd rather invest that 10 elsewhere where I know is turning up money over.
If you don't know by now, I run a business called The Content PT. I create content for influencers, PTs, online coaches and fitness brands all around the world. So if you are someone who's in need for sexy content for your social media, or you really want to maintain a competitive edge in your industry, drop me a DM on Instagram.
Circ, the brand which you've got now with a couple of people, haven't you?
Yeah.
I see it everywhere. Obviously, I've done shoots with you for it and that, and there you go. And like, you know, you've kindly gifted me a couple of pieces, and it's unbelievable, mate. I love it. Them shades. I'm not this guy. This is just going to sound like a plug for you, but genuinely the best shades I've ever had on.
And again, I know exactly which ones you are. The Osaka ones. They're probably the best ones that we've designed in terms of premium quality for the price it is. So you're not the only one that actually has said that about them frames in particular.
They're insane. I even remember, I'm sure it was hard for you to get us a pair of them.
Yeah, we're sold out now. Back then we had one style lens, which was like a dark blue, and now we've just designed a dark green lens, which are both sold out. So summer 25 is 2 more additions adding to that collection, but that frame in particular was like one of our best sellers.
Vikkstar, obviously one of the Sidemen, got on board. How do you manage to get someone with such a relevant presence? Because he's not just a guy who, you know, he's so relevant, topical, finger on the pulse type of geezer in the industry. When I looked at Circ initially, before he was on board, I never would have paired someone like a Vic with a Circ. I probably would have had a couple of other candidates who might have been a great fit, but obviously it's worked extremely well. What was the reason you got him on board?
It was natural in terms of him coming on board after we'd met with him a few times. It was very organic in terms of, at the time, Vic was making not so much the changeover, but he was excelling and progressing into his becoming a DJ. And I remember looking at all his previous images. He always wore sunglasses when he was playing his sets. So it didn't come across forced, whereas some things are promoted, are spoken about forced, and it didn't come across natural. Whereas Vic did. He was passionate about sunglasses, eyewear. You know, he wears prescription lenses the same as me, and he knew his stuff about eyewear. You know what I mean? So it wasn't just a money thing or just he owns this now. He generally was passionate about, you know, coming on board and not willing to shout about it, wanting to shout about it. You know what I mean? We could have got big investors, but they wouldn't have been passionate about the eyewear that they were, let's say, promoting, let's say, wearing. And he generally wears all Circ now when he's playing his sets. His prescription lenses are also Circ. So for me, it was no-brainer to have not only that, obviously his following and everything that he's about was a massive bonus, but it needed to be someone who was like genuinely passionate about eyewear.
Obviously, I've seen the likes of KSI wearing them, and I've seen so many people wearing them, mate, and I can tell when it's Circ, and that's when I know the brand. I mean, I'm no expert on brand, but that's when I know something's done. With this brand in particular, Leon, will this brand make you a millionaire?
Yeah.
Do you know that, or is that a hopeful thing to say?
No, I hope that. Don't hope that. Sorry, I know that because it won't overnight. It's and again, that's why the two guys that I'm with, they're also very keen on it. It's not like we're gonna make £1 million tonight. It's like we'll get there. So let's just enjoy the journey while we're getting there. So it's just a matter of time, but not an overnight thing. Danny
Buck, is he the other guy involved? Because he's does crafted, doesn't he, with Alex?
He owns crafted with Alex, yeah.
What is it about Danny that's... Because I've heard of quite a few people now that guy's a genius. Mm-hmm. What is it about him that's a genius?
It's, I guess, what he brings to the table. The bags of experience that he's got within, the e-commerce industry, the e-commerce business, is phenomenal. Like, for what he does, you'll see a lot of people trying to reach out to him, trying to mimic him, trying to copy him, but he is, besides all that, he is a real down-to-earth, genuine guy. Nothing but good words to say about Danny. He's very, up to date with life in terms of he knows what it takes to get the best out of people. He doesn't push people. He's very laid back, but at the same time, he knows what he wants and knows what's required to be successful in the e-commerce business.
For the ones who don't understand, me included, right, what's the process in designing shades?
Well, from the start...
Do you design them?
Yeah, I'll design, yeah. So it'll be me and Vic who will design the shades. So obviously, how it starts, we tend to look at styles that we like in particular, that we generally would wear, where we're like, yeah, we like that. But at the same time, we've got to bear in mind that our customer doesn't always like what we wear. So it takes research in terms of seeing what the runway models are wearing for the bigger brands, attending festivals, music scenes, holidays, just seeing what the public are wearing, seeing what's popular, seeing what's at airports. Sort of taking the best from that and then going to our designer, a supplier. We'll get CADs drawn in terms of drawings of how they would look. Then we could potentially get the first sample made, which we're in the process of doing that now. And then we would change it, we would tweak it, whether that be a green lens, slightly bigger frame, spring back hinges in terms of the arms. There's loads of modifications on a frame that need to be considered, the nose, the bridge. So it's a long process. And from the minute you say we're good to go, it's still 60 days to 75 days lead times. So you can imagine, whereas clothing, you can have it turned around within, if it was blanks, you could have it within a week. So that's how far we've got to plan, for new designs. Some designs may be a little bit simpler than others, but the frame that we were referring to, that is a long lead time because of the complex needs in the frame itself. So yeah, me and Vic design, and obviously it's a lot of back and forth between me and him. And our designer and supplier.
You know what's mad? You sound really passionate about like designing shades.
Uh-huh.
Do you think you're born with that? I don't mean you're born with the passion of designing shades, but do you think you're born with, because you're not from a design background?
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
You're a lad off a council estate who's played footy, fell into modelling effectively.
Yeah.
How do you do you just learn on the job, or have you got an eye for design? I get you're creative. But
I'm more of like an organised mess, let's say. It's not like I'm very scrappy with my work. If I see something,
I can see him laughing.
It's not like I'm not very good at in terms of like having real clean drawings. Mine's a lot more sketching, and then we've got people to really bring them to life for me in that sense. Mm-hmm. So I love it because it's like, what can I make to make feel, my whole idea of when I do design is like, how can I make someone feel better and look better within the eyewear? You know what I mean? I want people to put them on and say, yeah, I look good. Or, you know, change the colour of the lens. It's almost part of your outfit. Eyewear to me is just like clothing. I want you to try it on and go, yeah, this is the one. Whether that be the weight of the frame, whether that be, you know, the fit of the frame, you know, the design in terms of where the branding is. Is it over-branded? Is it under-branded? You know, like, does it fit you right? Is that when you're looking through the lens, is it making your day look brighter? Is it making it look duller? So all these, it's like a lot of emotions go into the design process of how I want the person who's going to be putting them on, how I want them to feel from it.
That's mad, that goes into it. Did you mention airports?
Yeah, obviously airports.
Is that a big thing with some? I understand the
It
sunglasses.
is, yeah,
airports,
because obviously that's where people, you go on holiday, and if you haven't got your frames ready, you're guaranteed to bump in. You know, oh, let's have a quick look at the eyewear in the airport. You know, if I've not got time to go shopping before it, I know that there's frames at the airport where I can grab, but they're all like £150 plus. You know what I mean? They're all the high-end brands.
Is Circ in airports?
No,
no,
not there.
Do you have a plan to get in there, or?
I would like to see us in there. Yeah. We've recently been in talks with Specsavers. We're looking at prescription lenses. It's something that we want to move towards and do. But having that right partner in that area is key. So we have spoken to them and several other people. So hopefully that will come to surface in terms of we will do prescription lenses.
When you look at a brand like, obviously with Circ, is it shades where you want to stay? Or do you want to maybe take it back into, you know, clothing? Or
Circ will be shades only. I know we have spoken about like an accessories brand, whether that be caps, sliders, gloves, hats. You know, that's sort of what we have touched upon and spoken about in terms of expanding for Circ. But we've also, you know, discussed that we want to establish ourselves as an eyewear brand before, again, walk before we run. You know, I made that mistake with Fawn, so we definitely won't make it with Circ. So although we are established, I'm not saying that we're not, but we want to be big established. You know, like we want to be doing blue light, prescription, sunglasses, you know, lots of different options in terms of eyewear on the website and very established across the world. And then we will look at developing or adding more stuff to the collection.
I see you wearing Represent there. I'm a fan of Represent, you know, and I know that we're not here to talk about every other brand, but you're wearing the t-shirt. I like the clothes. I think George is a lovely bloke. What is it about Represent that I've done so well? What have you identified being a brand owner yourself? What is it that you think they've kind of carved out and done particularly well?
They've built a community, but we've got to remember Represent's been around a long time, you know what I mean? And people are now starting to see the back end of their success. And I'm sure I've heard George say that right at the start. They were failing, but they dug in there. They'll get past that bit. And they've built a community off the back of that. A lot of people trust the brand now, trust that the quality, when they receive it, the quality is going to be good. And they've delivered on that every time, but slowly added to the collection. So yeah, the community and the following they've got now is one of the best out there.
So Leon, you've built your own house. You didn't even have a clue to do it, did you?
No.
How does one go from living a normal life in a normal house and you had no experience with architects and blueprints and drawings and stuff? How do you build your own house?
Good question.
Also, is it expensive as well?
It was, yes. So how it worked, obviously, I'll share the story. You have to find land first, which is land that's got the permission to build on, which we were looking. Obviously, myself, I lived with my nana at the time, by choice. You know what I mean? She looked after me when I wasn't able to look after myself, so I felt like I had a duty to look after her as I got older. My partner was very understanding about that, in terms of I didn't jump ship when she came along and rent or get an house. It was like, I need to help my nana with what she needs help with. So that being said, we were looking at other houses, at the time in terms of we do need to consider moving out, but not right now. So we'll look, and everything we looked at, it was just not right for us. So I said to Melissa one day, let's build. We're like checked funds, and that was like, I don't know what it cost, but I think we're in all right position to maybe look into it, which we did. We started looking at land, started pricing land. Then we were looking for almost over a year for land. I remember getting a call saying there's some land not far from your mum's house, but it's set back in the woods. It's a nice gated area. Do you want to come and view it? And we did. And me and Melissa, we had a look, and I said straight away, this is the one, because again, it was very private, aware, but also able to still tap in to visit my mum and family when needed. So I remember calling the landowner, and we put an offer on the table, which was below what he wanted. And he was like, if it's a one-off payment within X, Y, and Z days, then the land's yours. So we did. We went through with the land, but at the time, I remember with the solicitor was like, he was probably just trying to scare the guy holding the land at the time. He was like, the money needs to be cleared, otherwise this guy's bought it, he's got it, you need to pay. I remember solicitors saying, we need to check this, we need to check that, we can't, Leon, I'd strongly advising you not to wire that money across until we've checked this. And obviously my younger self was like, no, we're going to lose it, and this is the one we've been looking for a year. And I was actually in New York on a shoot for Be Inspired, a brand. Mm-hmm. And I remember ringing the accountant saying, just do it. And he was like, we want nothing to do with this in terms of if this fucks up, it's not on us. Yeah. We've strongly advised you, like, this, you need to check this and check that. So we did, we wired the full money across. And I wouldn't say luckily, it was like more of a, I wouldn't say I knew what I was doing, but I was confident in what I was doing. A couple of weeks later, the accountant called me and said, anyway, all the checks are all good, everything's good to go. So no issues, everything went through all right. So then it was a matter of build. So now we had all this land with very little money because all the money went on the land. So I was like, well, how do we build now?
How much does it cost to build a house?
Oh, it depends on the size.
So for yours, how much does it cost?
Total was...
Without the land, that's...
Oh, without the land.
Without the land, just to build a house.
$350, we got self-build mortgage and then spent just short of 50. So just short of 4.
It's not that bad, that, like, is it?
No, just short of 4 total. So obviously then I needed to find advice. Everything was staggered. Like, it wasn't like I never knew my next move, which now when I look back, it's quite scary. You know what I mean? It was like, let's get her there, then figure that out. Let's get her there, then figure that out.
So you literally just, right, what do we do to build a house? And
yeah, and it was just literally
how basic was your knowledge? Like, were you YouTubing stuff?
Yeah, YouTubing. I attended one property course with a guy called Samuel Leeds. I went to London on that. And I just, again, networked, got speaking to people, made some good friends there. And I just picked their brains. So I left London with a good bit of knowledge on what I needed to start with or what I needed to do. Bearing in mind, I had this land, and when you buy land, normally within the contract, you've got to start the build within a certain date. Although it was a year before we had to lay a brick. But I thought, we've got plenty of time, but that being said, we really didn't. And obviously during that, as we were like, right, I know what I need to do, self-build mortgage has been accepted, which again wasn't an easy process. Having my own company or a limited company at the time, when they say you've got to show them all your books, you've got to show receipt, everything had to go across to be accepted for a self-build mortgage. And even that is given at stages. So you'll only get X, Y, and Z. So much of the money, you get to a certain stage, they come out, they'll check it. Yeah, you've done that right. There's your certificate for that. Here's the next amount of money. So you've got to budget your money to get you to the next stage. Because if you overspend, then unless you've got money sat in the bank, which we did, but not an awful lot. So yeah, it was literally each stage, me and Melissa. We done it in lockdown, which was even more bizarre because when we got the permission and I got the team together in terms of who's building it, which we had to source ourselves, find out who's good at what and who's not, get prices, constantly meeting people, get quotes for jobs. they were like, yeah, you're ready to build, let's go. So I was like ready to go one Monday, I think it was, and it was on the news, not a call, sorry. I was on the news that the country went into lockdown. No one was allowed to leave the house. So it was like, now what?
Were you going round every day to like keep an eye on things, or were you just like letting them crack on with it?
No, I was going around. I was like, we actually created an house account. We were like, let's show this journey. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so we've got an house account that got up to like 15k following. We got a feature on Grand Design. So yeah, we were on it, like I say, because back then I was under a exclusive contract with Hera.
Right.
So it only required me going to London every now and then and doing shoots. So a lot of my time could be there. So I was very fortunate and grateful that at that time I could do that. So I was going around and getting involved in bits I could, but more so for just social media banter.
It's unreal, your house. Like, have you? Do you know how long it actually took from start to finish? The whole
A year
thing.
and a half.
A year and a half.
Yeah.
Would you advise it?
Massively. If someone has money, I wouldn't say sat there, but if you have money, you know, in the bank, it's better off to find some land and build it out. Because like I said, the house is now valued 1.1, 1.2. Whereas to get that, it would have cost me that to get that, but it's not. It's cost just
you probably have to buy a house for 800 grand and wait 10 years.
Yeah,
to get that valuation.
So we could cash out of the house, which, you know, there's me and Melissa and Cruz now living in there, which the house is massive for us, free. But at the minute, we're just loving the house and for what it is. You know what I mean? There's plenty of space for me to be a big kid.
Is it your forever home?
We built it to be that, which is why I wouldn't say it was a mistake in doing that. But the reason I say that is because every room we spent a good bit of money in there. Whereas the reason we done that, it was because it was the thought process, this is our forever home, where we can also add to it if needs be, where the back garden is big, where we can add extensions if needs be. But more recently, we were speaking about it not being a forever home. So obviously the mistake, if we had that conversation at the start where it's like, we might cash in on this and move on and do it again, you wouldn't have overspent in certain areas.
You would have just
not made it so much basic. I could have saved on that build if I was flipping it and selling it at least 50 to 60k in terms of like the tile choice, the bathroom choice, the kitchen choice, loads of different areas where like we could pull back on that. The stairs choice in particular, the stairs cost like 35 grand, and then you've got next doors whose house is just as good, if not better, than ours. Well, they're all quite similar builds. They've spent like 15k on their stairs because it's just not a standard, but it's just a wooden stairs. Whereas I wanted this, I wanted a spiral with glass running around. We sold a dream. Not sold a dream, it was like, this is what I wanted, and I wasn't pulling back because it was for our forever home. But at the time, there was just me and Melissa in the mix, and now we've got the baby Cruz, and he's like, as a concrete glass spiral stairs.
Yeah, I get that.
But people did reach out to me and say this, or, you know, what are you going to do when you have kids, or how are you going to clean that? And
the thing is, Leon, like, someone else, if you do go on to sell or whatever, like, someone will pay that anyway. Like, I understand what you're saying. You could have made more money out of it, but whatever you choose to sell that house for, someone's gonna pay that anyway. Yeah, because that'll be someone else's forever home, won't it?
Exactly, and I think that's part of what I had in the back of my mind in terms of why we put certain things in the house, because you would never be able to go on the market and find like Rightmove and find a house like that in terms of. Maybe down London, but not within the northeast, where you would find a concrete spiral stairs ran over 3 floors with 2 balconies, and we've got a rooftop terrace at the back of the house with a bedroom. We've obviously, the bedroom's also got a balcony running out. So it's almost like an house built that should be in Spain.
Yeah, it's mad that like.
But obviously we don't get the weather, so we're not really on the balcony that much.
What a waste.
Well, that's what I mean. Certain areas like that where you can, it is to a certain degree a waste, but there is times where in the summer I'll sit on there and reflect and just think like, you know what I mean? From living in, like, sharing a bedroom with my brothers and throwing pillars at each other to obviously being able to build something like that. It really does obviously blow my mind sometimes.
Yeah, obviously I know that you were very close to your nana, and she's no longer with us, is she?
No.
Can you remember where you were and stuff when she passed?
Yeah.
Was that expecting as well? Or you actually at
I was at my nana's,
right.
yeah. My nana, ever since lockdown came in, she had like a really tough year in terms of she couldn't grasp why. My nana's obviously, she's got gypsy blood and she's very old school and very like rough and very, just says it as it is, like, but she's very outgoing. She was very active right until the day she passed. So she couldn't understand that or grasp, I'm not staying in for what's happening here. So she would always try and get herself out. So for obviously since lockdown, my nana fell. She done a knee, so she was in hospital badly because of that. And then she fell. Once she recovered from that, she fell again, smashed her head on the floor. She didn't want to accept that she was getting weaker, and she would always fight against it, always want to keep going, regardless of how old she was getting. You know what I mean? She was almost scared of the fact that if she stayed in, she would seize up and not be able to move. So she always wanted to get out. But then obviously the last few months of her life, that was like quite tough. She almost took an infection. Like I said, I lived with my nana, and Melissa was there with me at the night. She got an infection. My nana would, whenever we would say to my nana, "Are you poorly? We need to go to hospital." Again, she was just like, "Nah, I'm all right. I'm all right. I'll be all right. I don't want to go to hospital." So she almost refused help, like, and battled on with things. And she done very well at it as well. But there was one time when she just said, I remember it was her stomach. Everything she was eating and drinking, she kept like barking and being sick. I was like, "You're not right, are you, Nana?" And she was like, probably the only time where she said, "No, I need to go to hospital." And obviously me and Melissa were living in the house at the time. So I remember saying to Melissa, "Right, let's take her." And my nana, as my family, if they watch this and friends and that, my nana always had a bag, like a little handbag. And wherever she went, she'd take her. Like even if she went to shop, she'd just take this little handbag with her everywhere. Even at hospital visits, when we went, she'd take a handbag. But I didn't notice this at the time. She asked, this was probably the first time she asked to be taken to hospital. So me and Melissa took her to hospital. And I remember them saying, "Look, we'll probably need to operate on her in the morning. She's stable now. I think it was a kidney. Something was blocked within her stomach, and we need to release it. But with your nana being the age she is, there's a chance that she might not. But we're confident that everything will be all right." So that's how the conversation was left. And I remember going home. Obviously, I said like, "Bye, Nana, love you." She done the same. And then as we got home, and I noticed down the side of a house, of a chair that she sits, a bag was there. I said, "Melissa, my nana's not took a bag." And obviously, Melissa was like, "She must have forgot. She'll probably want it in the morning, or she might ring you later and say, 'Oh, bring my bag up.'" Because whenever she was in hospital, it would always still be beside her, or wherever she went, she'd always leave it beside her. And I remember late that night, I got a call, and the hospital just said, "You need to come up." And I remember just burst out crying. And I said, "Is she gone?" And I said, "You need to come up." And then obviously Melissa knew, and then went up, and she'd gone that night.
Fucking hell, mate. It's you know, when you hear things like that as well, and and you think like, because obviously you can see you are obviously who you are because of that upbringing, and it's almost like losing a parent. Well, it is, isn't it? It's
Sure.
and it's like when you sort of see that, you start understanding like now you're a dad, and how much impact, or how much of an impact you can have on people, and when you become a dad, was there when you had your son, was there instant morals and stuff that you wanted to instill that you knew that you were given from your nana?
Yeah.
Do you know? Is there certain things where you're like, yeah, she would have always said so, and you just find yourself doing it?
Yeah. Well, my nana was always very respectful. Like she would always. There was a saying, and I think I mentioned it on your our last podcast, was today's proud peacocks can be tomorrow's feather dusters, you know, and what she meant by that is, you know, even if you're up there, don't forget the people down there. Always show respect to everyone, regardless of the position in life. And my nana always done that. She'd have a conversation with anyone. You know, she'd love getting on the bus and speaking to anyone. Whenever we went shopping, you'd find her speaking to the woman on the till, and I'd be like, "Oh, Nana, we need to go." So she was always full of life, even at the age she was and how weak she was. And she always respected anyone. She never spoken down on anyone. She was always full of energy. So for me, people do say they see that in me. Like, I would never disrespect anyone, regardless of, you know, their status in life, or I would never treat anyone any different. I'd have a conversation with the cleaner to the CEO, and that's I think that's come from my nana. And that's something that I always want to pass to Cruz, my son, is like, never think you're better than anyone else. You know what I mean? You are you, and you're unique being you, but at the same time, don't think you're better than someone else just because of what you've got or where you're going.
How do you think you're going to be able to instill it? Because he's not grown up in them council estates. He's not grown up with that gypsy blood, effectively. Well, I suppose he is from your nana, but he's grown up with a, you know, my dad's a successful brand owner, will be a multi-millionaire when he's older, you know, well-respected, well-known profile, built his own house. He's going to have a completely different life to you. How did you ever think about that? Do you ever think and how, like, because you want to like, obviously I've got a little in, like, you want to spoil that, but you also understand, like, in order to have a level of success, you need to not be spoiled as well.
Yeah. I have had these conversations with Melissa, and being honest, I've struggled with it sometimes in terms of, you know, buying him things, and he's at a very young age and he doesn't even have a clue, and I'm like, do things that I said I wouldn't do, in terms of buying him like a designer top. I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, he doesn't even have a clue. But I guess that's just for me wanting to give what I didn't have. But at the same time, I do need to remember that by not having what I didn't have made me who I am.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't want to, which Melissa is good at, and you know, all of us want to spoil our children, you know what I mean, in any way, not just with possession things, obviously with love, with time, with experiences. So I still want to give him all that. But again, being honest, I'll struggle with how can I keep him rough. You know what I mean? Like, what can I do to throw him out there and go survive, and me not worry? You know what I mean? Me not like thinking, I'm going to come and save your son. Because even though he's at the age now, that's what I'm doing now. I wouldn't say I'm doing it wrong, but, you know, when I'm at home, Melissa's very good at, if he's crying when I've been at work all day and I've not seen him or whatever, that's totally fine. But when I've been with him the full day and he's done something and then he has a little whinge and doesn't get his own way, he looks at me and holds his hands out, and I give in and go over and cuddle him. You know what I mean? Melissa's like, you need to stop doing that. You know,
it kind of breaks it's hard, like, we're the same. So if there's a problem, if there's a problem and there's been a bit of the little one's kicking off and she's like, no, well, and she's trying to tell her off. But then if I'm soft, it's like, it's almost undermining what she's saying. So then we're getting into it because it's like, well, no, if I'm telling her off, you've got to back me. Yeah. It's not, and then but it's hard. I mean, I've got a little girl, so I feel like it's even harder because it's a girl. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if that's just a me thing, but it's almost like you just don't want that. You know, I know that you're doing, you've got a fight coming up, haven't you? You've put yourself in the mist. Yeah,
nothing's booked in as of yet, but yeah, one of my things this year was, obviously, I still play football, but that's slowly coming to an end now. It's not as competitive, let's say. I still love football, love the banter, love being around it. It's a little bit different, a little bit more challenging, because for many years I've been used to being one of the teams at the top, competing, whereas now, obviously, I'm playing for the team at the bottom, where it's requiring a different mentality from me, which is why I do it to myself. You know, anyone can, I'm not saying anyone can, but when things are going good, it's easy to turn up every week and play for that team or play for yourself. It's when things are going bad, are you still going to turn up and be your best self? So for me, that's why I still play now and play for the team or play for who I am. I could easily pack in and wrap in and say I'm not playing no more, but I want to test myself in terms of still deliver a high performance or a good performance of my standard while things are not as going as well as what they did previously. So I'm still playing at that level, but I want to challenge myself now, although I am getting a lot older, not a lot, but getting older, challenge myself in a different sport, and that sport being boxing. So I was approached by boxing agencies to, have a chat with them. We had a chat. I've agreed on a contract, signed a contract. So this year I will be fighting. Don't know when, but hopefully soon. I've started training for it. And again, completely out my comfort zone. But I'll say it now, my aim is, before the year's out, I'll have 3 fights. One of them will be guaranteed to be on Misfits. That is my aim and goal, and it's out there.
You'll get there as well. And I've worked on quite a few of the Misfits cards. And, I've did promo videos for people and got them on the card as well. So I know how much they want it. And for someone like yourself who you can have a crack and you're doing a bit of training, you're doing everything you're doing, you probably fit the bill, mate. You probably fit the bill, to be fair. Yeah. So hopefully we'll see that, mate, and I'll be there to see you do the business.
Well,
but
it was offered 2 weeks on the card coming up.
Darren Till
card, yeah, but the agency that I'm with, they obviously reached out to me and said, they've asked for you, they want you to fight. This is the kid, but the kid's got experience. I won't say names, but the kid's got experience. The kid he was fighting's dropped out. Do you want to replace him? And them are obviously good at it. They've done the research and they're like, this kid's got past. We strongly advise you not, but it's entirely up to you.
So did you bottle it? Is that what you're telling me? Did you bottle it, Leon?
You could say that. I spoke to Melissa. Me being me, I wanted to. I'm not even just. I was like, let's go for it. But they were like, wait, do you want to? Obviously, I've got a boxing coach and a good mate now who you've had on the podcast, Venna. He's working with him and Mark Down. And they were like,
is that where you're training?
Yeah.
Oh, right, man.
So I'm training with them 3 times a week. I'm with him tomorrow morning. I was with him Wednesday at the Lions Den. And they were like, not 2 weeks' notice. Not 2 weeks' notice. Definitely not with a kid who's got experience, who's boxed before. The shortest will take a fight on is 6 weeks. So again, I've told that back to the agency. I'm in training now, so if anything comes up on the next one, then we won't bottle it, we'll be all in.
Yeah, I'm buzzing. I can't believe you're training with Venner and that's mint.
Yeah.
That's mint. Who better to train with, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Well, that's what I said, you know what I mean? As soon as it come about, I reached out to him. The experience he's got within the fighting industry, as well as Mark, who's Venner's coach, they're both local lads. There was no one better who I would consider working with.
Leon Scott, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, bro.
No problem, mate. Thank you again for having me, mate.
No worries at all, mate. You know what? I cannot wait at some point in the future to have this chat with you again to see if you manage to sell that house. If you end up building another one. Would you build again, by the way?
Yes, we would. Because, like I say, the lessons that I've learned from building would be stupid not to apply.
Because now you can do it streamlined as well.
Yeah, because now I know where I went wrong and what I'm doing well. And, apply. I've got the blueprint up here more than, So, yeah, I definitely would do it again when the time's right. But it does require a lot of time and a lot of effort.
Thank you so much, bro.
Thank you very much, mate.
So you've made it to the end of the episode. Fair play. If you want to watch more episodes like this, click here.